How's it going, guys? As promised, for the sub goal that we achieved, I'm going to be doing a Holy Priest guide. I have this little notepad out here just to show you the template of which I'm covering things, and I'm going to do it in this order. That way, in case you kind of already know, the race, the spec, the honor, talents, all the stuff that you want to play, and you kind of want to fast forward a little bit to maybe see like what I'm talking about right here or right here, right here. You can kind of like skip around in the video to kind of have like, I guess it's not an exact timestamp, but have a better idea of where you can kind of jump to in the video in order to get the information that you want. So first thing I want to cover in terms of races, I don't actually play Alliance right now, but I would say the most common race I see for Priest on Alliance is actually Night Elf. And I think Night Elf is actually really good with a Holy Priest because you have so many ways to avoid crowd control already. Using Night Elf in order to kind of further that even more is really powerful. I would say the second best one is probably going to be Human. Human doesn't really seem that good in general because it shares a cooldown with your trinket for 90 seconds. But the way I look at it is you could basically trinket every 90 seconds to get out of a stun instead of every 2 minutes. So in the grand scheme of things, it ends up being pretty decent. Personally, I think I would probably play Night Elf just because I think Night Elf is more fun. I think it has like a higher skill ceiling on what you can do with the ability. I think it's pretty sick. In terms of Horde, I don't think it matters too much. I played Panda Priest for a little bit, and honestly, the CC was nice sometimes. And you get the extra 1% verse. I went back to Undead because I like the way it looks, but I do think that Will of the Forsaken is pretty good for getting out of fears. There's definitely a lot of fears in the meta right now, especially Warriors being one of those. I've seen Torn Priest just for a little bit of extra HP. I don't think the War Stomp is necessarily that insane, but you can get, a flash heal off with it. Basically, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if you have a favorite race that you want to play, you can even play Goblin for Elite Fear. On the Horde side, I think it's a little bit less impactful. On the Alliance side, I would say Night Elf is probably reasonably impactful, but if you want to play Gnome for Escape Artist, if you want to play Dwarf to, maybe remove a Silence from you or a Mind Game, something like that, I don't think it's like, the end of the world. For example, if you're playing Shaman, you basically want to play Orc, you're at an extreme disadvantage. So you have some options. All right, we're going to go over the spec, I guess, talents and honor talents. Briefly, just looking at everything real quick, I don't think you change much. The first talent that you have right here, Renewed Faith, is incredible. I play this almost every single game. If I'm fighting a team where I think I could run out of mana and a team that doesn't really have Immortal Strike, I don't think I would recommend using Enlightenment if the team has Immortal Strike because Renewed Faith is too much value. I'll run Enlightenment. So like if I'm thinking like maybe like Boomkin, Elemental Shaman, Mage, Shadow Priest, something like that. Something where it feels like they're trying to run you you could try Enlightenment. If you're running out of mana, if you're losing because you're running out of mana, you could try this talent. Otherwise, I would just stick with Renewed Faith. Angelic Feather is definitely really, really incredible in my opinion. It's just free movement speed. I stopped using Body and Soul because Powered Shield is a little inefficient, and you definitely don't want to use that every single time you want movement speed. It's going to kind of contribute to running So if you're using this talent and wondering why you're fairly quick, that could be the reason. Angel's Mercy, I think that Holy Priest kind of struggle into melee cleaves quite a bit, and considering you're probably not going to get away even with Angelic Feather versus melee cleaves, you could try Angel's Mercy to have Desperate Prayer up more often. I personally don't use it very frequently, but I've actually heard that it's actually pretty good at resetting, and combined with the Conduit that actually gives you a little bit of healing when you use Desperate Prayer, it's actually pretty decent in terms of healing there. So it's pretty good if you're getting killed by melee cleaves. Always take Guardian Angel here, and it's actually really imperative that you try not to let him proc it, because then it goes to a 60-second cooldown instead of a 3-minute cooldown, so it's actually really good. I don't really ever take Shining Force here. There could be some scenarios where you play it. I don't really see Holy Priest play it that frequently, but some scenarios where if you are trying to get cheeky and you want to run it, you can go for like a Shining Force against DKs to get them out of AMZ, Shamans out of Earthern, Death Knights out of Darkness, things like that. Generally not really played. I would say more often than not, priests play the stun, allowing Chastise to be used to set up a kill. But sometimes priests also decide to play the Psychic Voice, which is the short cooldown fear, and then the Chastise actually is not a stun, which means it's going to break on damage. If you're playing a comp that has a lot of stuns and you want to go for the short fear to get CC more frequently, Psychic Voice is really good. In situations where you can use this, like I was playing Windwalker DK, and it didn't really feel like we had that much CC, so I was kind of using, the in-cap Chastise into short fear to try and get more CC. but then there were some games where I liked the stun and we just kind of grip someone in and stun them behind a pillar. It's really dependent on the situation. I would say, just to get an idea, just try and feel out what your win condition is. Do you feel like you need to get CC more frequently? Do you think you need to 100-0 someone in a stun? It kind of depends on the comp you're playing, but these two are generally the option. Surge of Light is always taken. Just by far the best talent in the row. It's free healing, Flash of Light, instant cast, helps you reset your Serenity, which is obviously really important for the spec. Benediction is incredible, just puts Renew up on people based off of your paramending healing. It doesn't happen all the time, but you do want Renew to have 100% uptime. It's really good. Also, you know, works really well with Renewed Faith. And then Apotheosis is by far the best talent in this row. I should say that this is a PvP guide by chance, because Holy Word Salvation, incredible in PvE. But either way, Apotheosis is incredible. I try and always make sure I get really good on a value on my Apotheosis. Like, you want to make sure that you have stunned someone. You want to make sure that your Sanctify's on cooldown, that your Serenity's on cooldown, and then you pop Apotheosis, and boom, boom. Let's use another Serenity here. Boom, 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 ready? It's magic. It resets all of them. And then not only that, it helps you reset them even quicker. So if you look at the, you know, Chastise resetting here, this is how Priest gets so many stuns so frequently. You can already restun. You know, you send out another Serenity here, and then you Flash your Light, then you palm, and look, you already have another Serenity, and it's just insane. Apotheosis is by far the best cooldown in that row, and it's actually a pretty good, like, throughput cooldown. The way that I use it is sometimes I try and use it to reset stuns, but sometimes I definitely just use it to deal with damage. Like, you know, if a warrior pops like his his Warbreaker avatar, if a monk pops his too many cooldowns with his Wen and stuff, like, this is the cooldown that you're going to need to help heal through that kind of damage, so it's really good. I would say Miracle Worker and Greater Fade are a must take in every single situation. Greater Fade, too good for surviving, too good for avoiding CC. Miracle Worker is too important for throughput. If you haven't played Holy Priest in this expansion, Miracle Worker didn't used to reduce the cooldown by 25%. It used to just give you 2 charges and people didn't really take it, but now reducing the cooldown by 25%, it takes 15 seconds off that Serenity cooldown, which is going to be like one of your biggest sources of healing, if not your biggest source. Yeah, right there, it's my number one. So you obviously can't drop that, which leaves you with all these honor talents and only one choice to take. It's an interesting one. Cardinal Mending is pretty impressive in this expansion. Generally speaking, it's very high up on your healing, especially if games are getting into dampening. It's always 10% of someone's health. It's not affected by Mortal Strike. It's not affected by dampening. It's not affected by any of that. So your Cardinal Mending always does that healing, which means it's obviously really good for throughput. Sometimes for sub-rogue mage, I decide to take Thought Steal to try and deny the mage some polymorphs in replace of Cardinal Mending, because sub-rogue mage, you guys probably know, it doesn't do high consistent damage, so it's not super important. If I was fighting against Assassination, I would probably play Cardinal Mending because I think I would need the healing. I think Holy Ward has lost a lot of value. So many classes can just purge or knock it off really easily. I mean, even hunters have a purge now. I'm finding Holy Ward not super useful. Holy Ward concentration, it's a little bit awkward because you got to kind of place it on the ground, and if like heavy hitting spell cleaves ever becomes super viable, you might want to play this to, like, you know, if you're playing with a Destro Warlock or something that's hard casting, it could help them out a lot. But generally speaking, not super good. I haven't really experimented much with Greater Heal. It kind of feels like it's too slow of a cast, and it also kind of feels like you don't really need it with how powerful Serenity is. You just be kind of opening up your tree for 2.7 seconds, and it's a monster heal, and maybe in 2v2 it could be better, but keep in mind in 2v2 Cardinal Mending, it's immune to dampening, right? So it's kind of hard to say. I haven't messed around with that much. Now this is also an interesting one. Spirit of the Redeemer. I've been told, and I think I tested it, but I'm not 100% sure here. If you don't want to go with the Thought Steal versus Rogue Mage, especially now considering the sub-rogue one-shot build in Duel is getting more popular, Spirit of the Redeemer allows you to heal a target in Smoke Bomb and in Shadowy Duel. So when I play against Rogue Mage, this is actually my go-to. I'm immune to CC, and now I can heal my target in Duel. I can heal him in Bomb. It's actually an extra defensive that ends up feeling pretty nice. So I would definitely look into that one. Ray of Hope, I've done like the Ray of Hope one-shot cheese before, if you guys have seen that. Not a big fan of it, actually, as a defensive cooldown. I think I would prefer Cardinal Mending than Ray of Hope in most situations. Delivered from Evil, I've never used. And Divine Ascension, I thought was good versus melee cleaves, but it turns out it's just really awkward, man. You fly up in the air, and you're like up here, and you're like, yeah, I'm chilling. And then you fall back down, and there's 2 melees just beating the crap out of you, and you're just missing you're just missing so much healing. So those are how the honor talents work. Basically, you're only going to switch to Cardinal Mending for what it seems like Thought Steal and maybe Spirit of the Redeemer, and both of those actually seem like rogue mage things. So all right, we're gonna go over the macros real quick. I generally use the same type of macros on all of my characters. It's just really simple party 1-2 stuff, help harm stuff. But we'll go over them in case you haven't seen the rest of Shaman or Holy Paladin guide, which we do have out there if you are interested. This is basically party 1-2 Dispel. Nothing crazy about that. This is a help harm macro, so if I target myself with this macro, it dispels. If I target an enemy with this macro, it purges. That's how the Dispel used to be back in the day. That's what inspired this macro. But a pretty simple one there. Focus Dispel here. I actually have a macro to Battle Master and Desperate Prayer at the same time. But I do have my Battle Master bound separately in case I don't want to use them at the same time. So I wouldn't recommend using this macro unless you do them separately, at least somewhere on your action bar, because sometimes as a Holy Priest, you're actually kind of susceptible to being killed. And if you, pre-Battle Master Desperate Prayer go, you go from 41,000 HP to 72,000 HP. It could be what keeps you alive in that situation. So pretty decent macro to have there, in my opinion. That's Shadow. I actually use Arena 1, 2, 3 Mind Control as well as Focus Mind Control. Mind controlling is actually really important part of the Priest toolkit. I don't know why I can't talk. Let's not worry about that. We'll talk a little bit more about Mind Control later. I like this macro quite a bit. This just goes ahead and drops a feather on your body. So look, ready? No hand. Boom. Feather down. This macro is actually really nice for kind of going for fears instead of being like, okay, I want to feather myself. Look, I'm just going to do this. No, you just instantly press this macro and it just drops it on your feet. Super helpful. You can't use it for teammates. Only works on yourself. There's the macro right there. I have a macro to focus Thought Steal and player Holy Ward because I never use them both at the same time. Kind of irrelevant. Target Mind Blast and target Holy Fire. So basically right now, if I want to target this guy, I can now Holy Fire his target. This is kind of nice for bursting sometimes. Also resetting your chastise and stuff. Because sometimes it's really difficult to be like, okay, I need to heal this guy, then I want to do this, and I want to target him, then I want to put up Shadow of Pain, then I want to target him, then I want to cast a Flash Shield, then I want to target him, then I want to cast a Holy Fire. It just makes it nice and easy where it's like, okay, I can heal this guy, and I can start sending out some smites here, smiting, whatever, and then I can heal this guy again, and then I can, go ahead and Holy Fire. It's just nice. It's nice to be able to have that flexibility where you don't need to constantly swap your targets. Same thing with the Power Infusion there. Power Infusion macro, so I don't need to bounce my targets around a lot. Dispel Self. Mind Control Arena 3. I like having grip 1-2 macros. I've actually done some pretty fancy things with grips before where it's really nice. If I'm targeting on this guy and this guy gets, stunned, you can instantly grip him with that macro. I can actually grip at the same time DK's grip in. So if a DK grips and, I press the macro, it grips him here, and then I end up over here. It's actually pretty good for avoiding those goes. Mind Control Arena 1, Mind Control Arena 2. Mind Control Arena 3, it's irrelevant. This is the target smite macro. So I have these macros for all my damaging ability. Same for Shadow or Pain. Focus Chastise. Player Power Infusion. This is the Shadow Word Death macro. A lot of people ask, what Shadow Word Death macro do you use? How do you death efficiently, effectively? This is the one I use. I don't know if it's the best one, but it works pretty well. Basically what this does is it's just going to death the closest target to you. So if I just press death here, instantly targets, instantly presses death. Makes things really easy, kind of allows you to be smooth with your deaths, I guess. Cursor for Sanctify. I generally always use cursor macros. I'm a big fan of them. And then all the rest is just arena frames and stuff like that, I think. I don't know why I have so many feather macros. Pretty sure it's all the same stuff, though. All right, stat priority on Holy Priest. This is actually a bit of a controversial topic. So I am actually favoring more mastery. And I should have said at the start of this guide, I'm not the highest rated Holy Priest in the world. I'm not the best Holy Priest in the world. I'm just trying to give you information that I have kind of learned and take it with a grain of salt and understand that other people's opinions may be correct compared to mine. So I will just say that right off the bat, Hydra, who is a very popular and well-known priest, says that Holy Priest should play with 18% haste. I'm currently playing with 10% haste. I'm not going to say he's wrong. After a certain number, I feel like that haste just stops being super valuable. I play around 10% on my Holy Paladin now. I'm playing about 10% on my Priest. Obviously, you get faster cast times, you get faster globals with all the haste, but I feel like mastery is just such a powerful stat. And like I'll show you some games here that I have. So this is a 5-minute game where my mastery was my 3rd highest heal, almost was my 2nd highest heal. Dalaran Sewers, my mastery was my 4th highest heal, was 13%. Hook Point, this is a 9-minute game, it was my 3rd highest heal. I just feel like it's free healing, and I know that mastery is really good in PvE, and I feel like generally speaking those stats kind of correlate a little bit. So that's where my thought process is there. So I like around 10%. It puts my Palm at a 11-second cooldown. I don't think that haste scales that crazy with Palm, and I'll show you right here. So at an 11-second cooldown with 10% haste, I pop PI. It takes me to 37%. It only takes like another 2 seconds off my Palm, a little over 2 seconds. And this is 25% haste. You're never going to get that much haste. It's impossible. So even with another 25% haste, you're only getting 2 more seconds off Palm, which I think is like, you know, the most supreme value because Palm is like one of your best buttons. But that's where I'm at. I think I like around 10% haste on my Priest, and then I like the Verse Mastery. Other people will, you know, say otherwise, but that's kind of where I'm at. So Verse with like a touch of haste and then a good amount of mastery. These are my stats right here if you want to compare to what you got. Obviously, critical strike not being super valuable. And if you want to go full haste and say screw mastery, I don't blame you, but those are the 2 stats that you generally want. All right, now we're going to talk about covenants. And I will just say right now, I think Venthyr is the best covenant. I am currently Night Fae on my Priest. I was experimenting a little bit. I do very much like the Nadia Soulbind here because I think Familiar Predicaments is incredible. I also think the haste that you get is incredible. I'm not a big fan of Agent of Chaos, if I'm being honest. I don't necessarily think it's super important. But I do think, you know, going down the left side, you probably want to play double potency. It is what it is. You know what I mean? I think double potency is pretty good. Now, the reason why I was playing Night Fae is because in my mind, I would say that Holy Priests only have one weakness, and that's not having damage reduction. And I think that the Night Fae cooldown right here is actually really powerful. Reduced damage taken by 20%. It's a 20-second uptime with a 1.5-minute cooldown. It's a really good uptime. Also helps reset the cooldown of a major ability on your teammates. You should probably put it on your teammates. So if you're playing with a mage, it's Combustion. If you're playing with a Windwalker, it's Serenity or Images. Brett Paladin is Wings. I like it a lot. And then on top of that, I think that the master you get from the Soulbind is pretty good. So if you are trying to be cheeky like me and you do want to play Naya, you want to play Fae Guardians, I think this is probably the way you want to go, and I think I'd probably go Naya Tools Herbs. And I do lose a 2nd potency conduit for that, which I'm not super thrilled about, but I heard the 5% haste is really good uptime. I will also say that I think that this is a more mana efficient spec. So like if you look at mana restored, my fairies gave me 4.2 in this game. And keep in mind that, you know, they gave me almost 20,000 mana in this game. It's actually pretty good for mana efficiency, as well as a defensive cooldown. 12.5k in a 6-minute 4-second game. It's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. So, yeah, the fairies are actually really powerful in terms of that. I did like them as defensive cooldown. I think Mind Games is more fun. I think it's got more impact on a game. Like, Mind Games can either be, you know, can literally swing a match in your favor and help you get a kill, or it could feel not really that great. The main reason I tried it is because I play with Windwalkers. Windwalkers are known to be super squishy. I wanted to give it a go. It didn't have the impact I was looking for. I just am too lazy to change back. But it was interesting, you know. I would recommend playing Venthyr. I think Ventyr's probably the best. I do think Night Fae for Fear was pretty cool, but it's not really that different than Door of Shadows. It's just instant, so it is what it is. I would stick with the Venthyr, but Night Fae is not unviable, I should say. I got nearly 3k with Night Fae. I've been 29.85. That was with Night Fae. Maybe I would have been 3k with Venthyr. Who knows? All right, we're going to talk about the Soulbinds now. We kind of talked about that a little bit with the Covenants, but, you know, once again, if you're playing Venthyr, I would generally speaking, play Nadia. Some people actually like this guy because this guy gives you a lot of mastery, which I like that mastery. But I think that the token appreciation is pretty garbage. And then I think some people like Draven for potential damage reduction. Hold your ground. It gives you stamina, gives you healing. Surface and Stone gives you a little bit extra damage reduction if you're getting low. So if you're the kill target, I think that Draven's actually pretty good. So like, yeah, if you're playing against a cleave or something, you might want to try Draven to, you know, maybe Rogue Mage is one-shotting you. You might want to try Draven just to survive a little bit. I'm a big fan of like this interrupt reduction though, because I think it's actually pretty important for a priest. And then once again, just so you guys can see here, Naya, I think Naya's the best one. I think Grove Invigoration is really powerful. I wouldn't go to the left here because I think Naya's Tools is kind of garbage, so I would go for the haste one. But we'll talk about the conduits now that you play. I would say for the most part, priests don't have really like amazing conduits. The best endurance one, in my opinion, is Light's Inspiration, which is going to give you a little bit extra healing when you use Desperate Prayer. Charitable Soul sucks because you barely use Powered Shield. And Translucent Image sucks because you're always Greater Fade, so taking less damage while you're immune to damage is kind of useless. This one's good if you're Disc and Shadow and stuff like that. Actually, probably not even Shadow, but yeah. Now, in terms of Finesse Conduits, sometimes I like to play with Short Grip. I think this one's actually pretty nice, especially if you're playing with casters, but generally speaking, I just play the one that reduces the mana cost of your Dispel. This one helps your efficiency. Priests have always been kind of known to have mana issues, so I like this conduit quite a bit. And now for potency, there's a couple options. The number one option that you're always going to take for potency is Resonant Words. This conduit is absolutely insane, and it's actually really important for your efficiency to rotate through your Resonant Words. I'll talk about efficiency a little bit more often, but since we're on the conduit, we'll just talk about now. So like if you go for Serenity, you want to go ahead and cast a heal or a flash heal. You know what I mean? You don't want to like Serenity and then like Sanctify, and because then you're overlapping. So for example, right here, like you can Serenity, and then you could flash heal, and then you could Sanctify, and then you can flash heal, and then if you're going to use your stun, you get another one, and you can flash heal. It's every single time you use a holy word, so you want to make sure that you're kind of weaving those resonant words in, especially in 2v2 and dampening and stuff, to make sure that you're getting the max value out of your heals. You want to try not to overlap the proc is what I'm saying. Okay, so then the second one, I don't actually have all the conduits unlocked, so I'll show you the ones I have. If you ever decide not to play Cardinal Mending, you can definitely have a Soulbind set up potentially to use Focus Mending. I don't have one right now because I'm lazy, but Focus Mending doesn't work with Cardinal Mending because they're both on the first tick, so Focus Mending is actually pretty decent if you're not playing Cardinal Mending. Holy Oration is actually pretty decent. It helps reset your Serenities faster. It helps reset your Chastise faster. The way I look at it is 4 seconds off of your Flash Heal. I think it's actually 6 seconds for Flash Heal and 4 seconds for Palm. So 4 seconds off your Flash Heal would take another 0.4 off, so almost a half a second off that. And then every Flash Heal you do takes another 0.6 seconds off, and then with Apotheosis up, which is triple, so 0.4 times 3 would be 1.5 off that, or, 0.6 would be 1.8 off that, basically. So I think it's decent. I don't think it's the best one. I would say that the best one is probably the Guardian one. I don't even have it. I'm like kind of too lazy to farm it, but not the best one. Resonant Words is the best one. The Guardian one, where's that here? The Guardian one just increases the duration and increases the healing received. Basically a better Guardian. It's not, you don't necessarily need the healing, but sometimes it doesn't hurt, and having that extra duration also doesn't hurt. So I think Lasting Spirit is pretty powerful for a second potency conduit, probably what I would recommend. All right, now we're going to talk about the Legendary. Now this is another controversial topic on Holy Priest here, and I'm just going to go ahead and say I think that Harmonious Apparatus is by far the best Legendary. I would 100% recommend playing with it. It adds more depth in terms of how often you can reset your stuff. Circle, Healing, Reset, Sanctify might not seem that important, but it's actually pretty good during Apotheosis. Your Holy Fire, which would be useless otherwise, which is also like one of your best bursting abilities, and you definitely want to use it whenever you're going offensive, helps reset your Chastise. And then one of your best healing abilities helps reset your Serenity, which is one of your other best healing abilities. So you can see here, ready? Press Palm, helps reset your Serenity. It works with perfect synergy to the class. I think it is so incredibly important. Some of the other ones I think that Priest talk about is probably mainly... I think Cephus. I think Cephus is garbage in compared to how powerful Harmonious Apparatus is. I really believe that. Some people say play the Res Legendary. I think the Res Legendary is kind of crappy and cheesy, and I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think Flash Concentration you can actually keep up enough in order to keep that healing up. I think that Harmonious Apparatus is just so powerful, man. So powerful. I would recommend it. I've seen this one a little bit. I don't really think it's that good. I don't know. I think Harmonious Apparatus is the best one. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Even crazier, by the way. When you pop Apotheosis here, and you have Harmonious, just watch this. Ready? Watch this. Look at this cooldown right now, Palm. Takes like 20 seconds off right there. Now it's reset. You know what I mean? Like, and then your next Palm's going to basically do the same thing. You know what I mean? Ready? 35 seconds, 34, 32, and then you reset it, 16. It just helps reset that Serenity so much, especially during Apotheosis, man. I wouldn't recommend it in the ring slot. I would actually do the shoulder slot, because you get more stats out of a 235. Like, this is only getting stamina. I just had the gear this way. I would do it in the shoulder slot. I'm pretty sure it's the shoulder slot at least. Don't do it on the ring slot. That's just how I did it. In terms of healing effectively and your rotation, I want to say that you want to use Powered Shield as little as possible. there's some situations where I probably should use it and I don't use it often enough, but it's actually pretty inefficient in terms of healing. 1500 mana for 3600 damage, not incredible. And then you go ahead and compare that to Flash Heal, which is also not incredible. 1800 mana for 4600 damage, and this is still better than it. And then you compare that to Heal, which is your best one by a mile. 1200 mana, it's less mana than both, and it's healing like double that crap. 6800. So whenever you have the opportunity to cast a heal over a Flash Heal, you want to do it. If you have to use Powered Shield, fine. If you have to use Flash Heal, fine. But understand that if you can, you want to be casting Heal. Heal is by far your best. Also, in terms of efficiency, you always want Renew Up, especially if you're playing Renewed Faith, and you always want to Palm on cooldown. Always, always, always. Renew Up, Palm on cooldown, try not to flash, try not to shield. I don't really think Circle Healing is that incredible. If 3 people are taking damage, it's actually reasonable. I think Circle Healing is worth it during Apotheosis for the most part. Just because the Sanctify heal is actually pretty good, and then on top of that, you get the Resonant Words. But yeah, so you can see how important healing is with the Resonant Words. So like 12k heal non-crit. Some people wanted me to talk about dealing damage. Damage for Holy Priest is incredibly cheap, and it's actually very effective. You want to make sure that you always have Shadow Word Pain up on the kill target. I think it costs 200 mana if my brain's correct. 150 mana. That's obviously really cheap. I think Holy Fire is like also next to nothing. Holy Fire is 500 mana. It's a little bit more than other one, but it actually does a lot of bursts. You definitely want to try and get Holy Fires in those bursts. And then Smite, I think, is super, super cheap. Smite's 100 mana. So as you can see, all of it is really cheap. You want to always keep Shadow Word Pain up. You kind of want to use Holy Fire on cooldown if you can, in terms of like being able to deal damage. And Smiting is super effective. And also, the reason why Holy Fire and Smite is really good is resetting your stun. You got to understand that Holy Priest is all about resetting your Holy Word Chastise, which is your offense, and your Serenity, which is your defense. There's actually been some points in games where I'll literally be like, okay, I know they have damage coming, and I don't have any healing. I just drop behind a pillar, and I just start doing this. I have a lot of mana, and I'm just like, I need to just reset my Serenity right now. And I'll do this like a couple times or whatever. Maybe this is like a little bit of an exaggeration how many times I'm doing it. But now it's like, okay, I have at least one charge of Serenity to help combat like the damage that's going to come in. In terms of dealing damage, it's pretty simple. In terms of your rotations, pretty simple. We're going to talk about Priest Utility a little bit. Priest Utility, I'll say right now, I'm not Venthyr, but one of the big Priest that utility that Priest has is Mind Games. I think Mind Games is incredible for landing kills, especially on hybrid classes. Ret Paladins, Feral Druids, Enhancement Shamans, things like that. You want to make sure that you're getting Mind Games into the mix for killing those hybrid classes. It's really, really important. Also, mages that are fire, if you have Mind Games on them and they're going to cauterize, you actually instantly kill them. Your utility also consists of Offensive Dispel, which is Purge. You know, I don't really know what to tell you to do with Purge, but there's obviously buffs in the game that you want to purge off. You have Massive Spell, which you can get off Bubble, Bop, Ice Block, Cyclone. You can actually get your teammates out of Cyclone if you didn't know that one. Obviously very powerful. So you have your Stun, and you have your Fear, which is obviously great for crowd control. The Stun is something that Dis doesn't have. It's why people are kind of switching over to Holy on top of better mana. You have Power Infusion, which is great for offense for your team's damage. Like if you have a mage that's, you know, mage in your team, use it when he uses Combust. If you play with a warrior, you can use it when he uses Warbreaker Avatar. Definitely want to throw PI into the mix for offensive cooldowns. I would say one of the biggest utilities that you have is Mind Control. And this is really important because Holy Priest doesn't have any heals on the Shadow Tree. So you have to bait kicks on your Shadow Tree in order so you can heal effectively, especially considering heals are very slow. So whenever you have the opportunity and there's not much going on, you want to cast Mind Control. You want people to interrupt Mind Control so you can start free casting heals. It is very, very important. It is crucial for the success of Holy Priest gameplay, in my opinion. And it's some things that I notice I don't do too often, you know? You got to just cast the Mind Control and get that counter spell out of the way. Cast the Mind Control and get, you know, Lock CS out of the way or whatever it is that's going to hurt you. So yeah, that's really important. You want to make sure if you're a Holy Priest and you feel like you're pressured too often and you feel like you're constantly getting kicked on your Holy Tree, make sure you cast Mind Controls, get kicked on your Shadow Tree, free cast those those Holy Spells, and then start casting Mind Control again. And I'll say it's also really important to be Venthyr for that with the Nadia tree because then the interrupts are 25% shorter. And then you can also deal with that a little bit better. So Yeah. Cooldown management on Holy Priest is a little bit of an interesting one. You don't really have many cooldowns. You have Guardian Spirit, which I generally obviously always pair with a Serenity. It's basically a 1-minute cooldown if it doesn't pop, so you can see like the power of that right here. GS into a Serenity that healed for 28,000. You're generally going to top people with that. Guardian Spirit's usable while stunned, and you definitely want to try and make sure you prevent people from proccing that. But like I said earlier, I would say Apotheosis is like one of your more major defensive cooldowns. So right now, if someone's in trouble, you don't have any Serenity charges. You Apotheosis, you instantly cast a Serenity, you instantly palm after that, you almost already have another Serenity. Let's say you Serenity after that, you cast a Mind Control here, you get kicked on the Mind Control. You just want to spam reset. You want to make sure that you always have a charge of Serenity on cooldown with Apotheosis up, because it just resets so easily. You don't want to sit on 2 charges because it's too easy to reset. So that's actually your throughput cooldown. If you're Night Fae, obviously you could use Fae Guardians to mitigate some damage, but I don't think too many people are going to play Night Fae. A cooldown that is kind of interesting, just so you could do a quick tick. Divine Hymn is actually an incredibly strong cooldown that you could drop behind the pillar and get a 20% healing bonus. I didn't actually know that. So Divine Hymn is actually a really powerful cooldown that you probably want to try and get those stacks up to heal for a ton. I didn't realize that. That's actually really powerful. Yeah, Divine Hymn is good. That's really strong. That's really strong. Keep in mind that it'll do 100% less healing because you're technically in a raid. So this says healing increased by 100% when not in a raid. You are in a raid when you're in raided PvP, so it's not actually that insane. It works out of line of sight. It will work in Smoke Bomb, but I would say the main reason you're using Divine Hymn is to get that healing buff up and start pumping out bigger heals. Symbol of Hope, you don't really want to use unless you're low on mana. Otherwise, it's not really going to give you that much mana. So it's like a good mana cooldown if you're low on mana, because it generates a percentage of mana that's missing. And then other than that, I mean, Greater Fade is an incredible cooldown for you to live. I think what I was going to say at one point is Greater Fade, you can dispel. You can dispel stuff. You can dispel UAs basically while Greater Fade's up. So if you're fighting like a Shadow Priest UA Warlock and you have UA Mind Games, you can Greater Fade, dispel both, taking no damage. And you won't even get crowd controlled from the VT, which is obviously pretty good. Death Repair, the Battle Master, like, so for example, in this situation right here, I have no Guardian, I have no Fade, I have no Trinket. If you ever have no Guardian and no Trinket on your Holy Priest, expect to be a target. In this situation right now, you're not playing offensive ever, okay? And whenever someone runs at you, this is where you would do the pre-BM, the pre-BM and the pre-Death Repair. This is the situation where you think people are going to swap to you. So you want to make sure in positions when you have no cooldowns that you're playing really passively, and you can recognize when a team's going you, because it's really important that, like, in that situation, you pre-BM or you pre-Death Repair or you pre-Fade the go. So positioning on Holy Priest is obviously really important. Other than that, generally speaking, I would say if you have Fade, if you have Trinket, if you have Guardian Spirit, you can play almost as aggressively as you want. You want to push in, you want to get those fears, you want to try and smite. You want to make sure that you're resetting your stun as frequently as possible. Sometimes if you want, you can literally just like Apotheosis to reset your stun. So for example, like this. If you decide that you don't want to use Apotheosis as a defensive cooldown, you want to use it offensively. So right here, you can literally stun, Apotheosis, stun someone else, and then recognize when you have your Apotheosis up that this is the best time for you to reset this stun. So with this Apotheosis up, you always want to try and get some smites out. See what I mean? Already have another stun. And you still have some time left on Apotheosis here. So you can even go for another one off this if you want. Like, I'm going to be really close to resetting the stun once again. It's already at a 20-second cooldown. So Apotheosis is super good for offensive goes. But I would just say, generally speaking, no Guardian Spirit, no Trinket, you are a kill target on the Holy Priest. It's really obvious. And I would also try and stress the fact that I've made this mistake a few times where, like, someone's dying on your team, you just Trinket Guardian, and then you Trinket Guardian, and then you Serenity them. And that seems like a pretty good play. But you just got to understand that you use both of your, that's the only button I can use while I'm stunned in one situation. And now you're a kill target for a whole minute. So if you ever Trinket Guardian, expect to die. That's when you pre-BM or you pre-Fade, so try and watch out for that. Mana management on Holy Priest is pretty easy. Like I said, try not to power shield. Try not to flash heal. Obviously, you can flash shield procs. In terms of efficiency, you want to make sure you never overlap your Resonant Words. You can, Sanctify, cast a heal, then you could Serenity, cast a heal. Like, try not to overlap these, right? Like, right now, I have a Resonant Words. I'm going to stun. It's just going to refresh it. You're going to lose that one. Yeah, just try not to do that. But yeah, keep Renew up. Try not to power shield, try not to flash shield. It's pretty simple. And then in terms of communication, Holy Priest has very spiky healing, and it's super volatile to play with one, because you know that when your teammate drops to 20% health, you're going to press Serenity and they're going to be full health. But they see, oh my god, I'm at 20% health, I'm going to die. So in terms of communication, I would say on Holy Priest, let your partners know that you have them. If you have Guardian, if you have Serenities, be super vocal, say, you're fine, I will save you, you're fine. Like, you know, just give them a lot of reassurance. You know, when I'm playing with Ben and he's at 20% and he's like, oh, I blocked. And I'm like, oh, man, you had Guardian, you were fine. I should have been like, you cannot die, you cannot die. Guardian's literally a cheat death. So just be super vocal on Priest when you're playing with people, to make sure that they know that they're safe. Because these heals are literally like crazy. Like, once again, you know, let's just say I'm about to die here. Guardian Serenity, that's a 30,000 heal. Keep in mind that the HOT is also ticking for 3,000. Like, that's full HP, you know? And you can even do another one if you want. So just be super vocal in terms of having that healing. You can mind games Guardian proc, you'd instantly kill people. Common mistakes on Holy Priest are probably some things that I've already talked about, but people probably use Power Shield on cooldown. Pretty mana efficient, definitely going to you. Another thing that I said, people probably Trinket and Guardian to try and save your partner. I'm not going to say it's a mistake every single time, but if you can avoid it, you probably want to. Make sure you don't do that unless you are really desperate for that healing, because you are very likely to be a kill target off that. Another common mistake I would say is people maybe pushing up when they don't have the Trinket and the Guardian available, you know, making themselves a very viable kill target. Another common mistake I would say is maybe people, when they use Apotheosis, they're not like trying to get full value out of their resets. You know, I Apotheosis, I stun. You want to make sure that you're resetting the stun immediately. I have Apotheosis up, I'm sitting on 2 charges of Serenity. That's incorrect. You want to make sure that you always have at least 1 charge of Serenity on cooldown with Apotheosis up, because look how fast that reset. That was 2 heals. 2 heals just reset here, and watch, another 2 heals here. It's reset again. So that's probably a pretty common mistake. Make sure you Sanctify during your Apotheosis too, because it's literally 0 mana. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a mistake, maybe a knowledge thing, but make sure you're casting those mind controls, man. Make sure you're casting those mind controls. I could talk about compositions a little bit. I think Holy Priests actually have a pretty strong place in the meta right now. I would say Disc Priests were very niche in terms of what they played. I would say Holy Priests feel more like Holy Paladins, and they could play played in any type of comp. I've seen them played in Ret Warrior. I played it in Windwalker Decay. You could play it in Wizard Cleaves. I played it in Elemental Mage. It feels like you could plug in a Holy Priest and have that viability in terms of how flexible it is, work with any comp, like literally any single comp. Some comps obviously better than others, but I just think that it's a really flexible healer right now. So overall, I would say Holy Priest is either the 2nd or 3rd best healer right now. I think Holy Paladin's the best healer. I think Holy Priest and Resto Druid are fighting for that 2nd best healer spot. That's going to be it for the Holy Priest guide. I know it was, you know, generally these guides are pretty long. I try and give you the most information I can. I hope you guys learned, you know, something from this guide. Like I said, I'm not the best Holy Priest in the world. I'm not the highest rated Holy Priest in the world. I do feel like I've had some success with the class though, and I probably have some information that maybe you guys didn't have prior to that. So, you know, if this did help, you know, I'm happy. If it didn't, I'm very sorry. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching, and have a good day.
That you never be lonely.